Hey everyone, hope you're doing great. Welcome back to my channel. In today's video, we'll dive into what if Deku failed on day 1. Smash that subscribe button, and be sure to peek at the description below. Let's begin. The sky over Muzidifu was a piercing, mocking blue. It was the kind of clear spring day that usually signaled the start of a romantic comedy, or a triumphant sports drama. The kind of day where the protagonist runs with toast in their mouth toward a destiny of gold medals and applause. For Izuku Midoriya, standing on the course dirt of the pea grounds of Yue High School, the sky felt like a ceiling lowering to crush him. He tugged at the collar of his blue gym uniform. It felt tight. Everything felt tight, his chest, his throat, the skin over his knuckles. He was surrounded by monsters. Not villains, but monsters of talent. To his right, a tall boy with engines in his legs was doing high knees with the precision of a metronome. To his left, a girl with rosy cheeks was adjusting her gravity by floating small pebbles. And then there was him. Izuku Midoriya. The boy who had swallowed a hair, inherited a god's power, and currently had absolutely no idea how to use it without exploding. A quirk apprehension test, Izuku whispered, the words tasting like ash. But the entrance ceremony? The guidance counseling? If you're going to become a hero, you don't have time for such leisurely events, their homeroom teacher, Shota Aizawa, said. His voice was a dry rasp, like dead leaves skittering over pavement. He stood slumped in a black sleeping bag moments ago, a caterpillar of apathy, but now he looked at them with bloodshot, critical eyes. UA is a school that ignores the status quo. That's how we do things here. Aizawa held up a digital device. Softball throw. Standing long jump. 50-meter dash. Endurance running. Grip strength. Upper body training. Seated toe touch. Sit-ups. You did all these in middle school without using your quirks. Standard physical fitness tests. Aizawa's gaze swept over the class, lingering for a fraction of a second on Izuku. It was a look of utter boredom, yet it carried the weight of a guillotine blade. The country still insists on prohibiting quirks when calculating the averages of these records. It's not rational. The Ministry of Education is procrastinating. Aizawa turned to the ash-blonde boy standing near the front. Bakugo. How far could you throw a softball in middle school? 67 meters, Katsuki Bakugo grunted, his hands in his pockets, posture slouching with arrogant confidence. Try it with your quirk, Aizawa commanded. Anything goes, as long as you stay in the circle. Bakugo stepped into the circle. He rolled his shoulders, a feral grin splitting his face. Izuku flinched instinctively. He knew that look. That was the look Bakugo wore right before something, usually Izuku, got scorched. Dai! Boom! The explosion was visceral, a shockwave of heat and sound that ruffled Izuku's curls. The ball vanished into the stratosphere, leaving a trail of smoke. Know your own maximum potential, Aizawa said, turning the screen of his device to the class. 705.2 meters. That is the most rational foundation for forming the groundwork of a hero. The class erupted. 705 meters? Are you kidding me? This looks like fun. We can use our quirks as much as we want. This is what I've been waiting for. Izuku didn't cheer. He felt a cold sweat trickle down his spine. Fun? No. This wasn't fun. This was a minefield. He looked at his hands. One for all. The power of the symbol of peace. A power that, the one time he used it, shattered his arm and legs like cheap porcelain. He hadn't had time to figure it out. He barely had time to digest the DNA. Aizawa's eyes narrowed. The air temperature seemed to drop 10 degrees. It looks like fun? Aizawa repeated. The chatter died instantly. You have 3 years to become a hero. Will you have an attitude like that the whole time? The teacher's hair seemed to levitate slightly, defying gravity. A predatory aura leaked from him. All right, Aizawa said softly. Whoever comes in last place in all 8 tests will be judged to have no potential, and will be punished with expulsion. The silence that followed was absolute. It was heavy enough to crush lungs. The expulsion? The girl with the round face, Uraraka, stepped forward, hands clasped. But, it's the first day of school. No, even if it wasn't, that's too unreasonable. Natural disasters, Aizawa listed, his voice monotone. Big accidents. Selfish villains. Calamities whose time or place can't be predicted. Japan is covered with unfairness. Heroes are the ones who reverse those situations. If you wanted to go to McDonald's with your friends after school, too bad. For the next 3 years, UA will do all it can to give you one hardship after another. Go beyond. Plus ultra, he beckoned with a finger. Overcome it with all you've got. Izuku felt the ground sway beneath him. Last place. Expulsion. He looked at Bakugo, who was staring at him. Bakugo wasn't yelling. He wasn't mocking him. He was staring with a strange, intense scrutiny, as if waiting for the other shoe to drop. He knows I'm quirkless, Izuku thought. Or he thinks I am. He thinks I'm going to die out here. I have to use it, Izuku told himself, panic clawing at his throat. I have to use one for all. But if I use it, I break my bones. If I break my bones, I can't do the other tests. If I can't do the other tests, I come in last. If I come in last. It was a logic puzzle with no solution. The next hour was a slow-motion car crash. Test 1, 50-meter dash. Ida Tenya was a blur of chrome and engine exhaust. 3.04 seconds. Ajutsu. Hopping like a frog. 5.58 seconds. Izuku Midoriya. 7.02 seconds. Just a normal boy running as fast as he could. He didn't use his quirk, the class whispered. Why isn't he using his quirk? Test 2, grip strength. Shoji Mizo, 540 kilograms. Izuku Midoriya, 56 kilograms. Average. Painfully average. He heard a snicker from somewhere. He didn't look to see who it was. Test 3, standing long jump. Aoyama Yuga used a laser to propel himself backward. Bakugo flew. Izuku jumped. He cleared the sand pit, barely. A standard athletic jump. Last place, he calculated in his head. I am consistently landing in the bottom 3. Test 4, sidestepping. Mineta Minoru, the small boy with great balls for hair, was a blur of bouncing energy. Izuku moved back and forth, shoes squeaking. Normal speed. The pressure was building, a physical weight on his shoulders. He could feel All Might's phantom presence, the memory of the hero saying, "You can be a hero." Can I? Izuku thought, looking at Todoroki, who had frozen the ground and slid across it with effortless grace. Can I really stand among them? Then came Test 5, the ball throw. This was it. This was the only chance. Uraraka stepped up. She touched the ball, her fingertips glowing pink. She threw it. It floated. And floated. And floated. Infinity, Aizawa deadpanned, showing the screen. The class gasped. Izuku felt sick. Infinity. How do you beat infinity? Midoriya, Aizawa called. Izuku walked to the circle. His heart was hammering against his ribs like a trapped bird. The ball felt heavy and rough in his hand. I have no choice, Izuku thought. I'm already at the bottom. If I don't score big here, I'm gone. I have to use one for all. He remembered the image All Might gave him. Clench your butt cheeks and yell smash. He gripped the ball. He planted his feet. He drew his arm back. Just one arm, he bargained with the universe. I'll sacrifice my right arm. It's fine. I can still run the endurance race with a broken arm. I just need a score that proves I belong here. Power surged. Red veins of energy crackled across his skin, invisible under the sleeve but burning hot to his nerves. The power of the stockpile. The power to change the weather. Smash! He screamed internally. He whipped his arm forward. The air pressure built up, and then vanished. The ball left his hand with a pathetic plop, landing 46 meters away. Izuku stood frozen, his arm extended. It didn't hurt. It wasn't broken. But the power, it had just disappeared. I erased your quirk, a tired voice said. Izuku turned. Aizawa's hair was standing on end, his scarf floating around him like a serpent. His eyes glowed a terrifying red. The goggles were gone, revealing the dark bags under his eyes. That entrance exam was definitely not rational enough, Aizawa muttered, walking closer. Even a kid like you was accepted. You! Izuku stammered. He recognized the goggles now. The erasure hero, Eraserhead. Eraser? I don't know him, someone in the class whispered. He's an underground hero, Izuku mumbled automatically, even in his panic. Aizawa ignored the class. He stepped into Izuku's personal space, towering over him. From what I observed, Aizawa said, his voice low and dangerous, you can't control your quirk, can you? Do you intend to become incapacitated again and have someone save you? And no! Izuku protested, shrinking back. That's not what I intended. That's what will happen, Aizawa cut him off. Whatever your intentions. In the past, there was an oppressively hot-blooded hero who saved over 1,000 people during a disaster, and became a legend. You have the same reckless valor, but you are useless after saving a single person. Aizawa's scarf lashed out, wrapping around Izuku and pulling him close. The teacher's face was inches from his. Izuku Midoriya. With your power, you cannot become a hero. The words struck harder than any villain's punch. Izuku stopped breathing. I've returned your quirk, Aizawa said, blinking. His hair fell flat. The red glow faded. He released Izuku. You have 2 throws left. Hurry up and get it over with. Aizawa walked back to the sidelines, picking up his eye drops. Izuku stood in the circle, trembling. He's right, a voice in his head whispered. He's completely right. I break. I shatter. I'm a liability. But then he thought of the beach. He thought of the 10 months of dragging trash through the sand. He thought of the roar of the crowd when he smashed the 0-pointer. He thought of All Might, skeletal and coughing blood, and trusting him with the future. I can't end here. He picked up the ball. I can't use 100%. I can't break my arm. I need just a focus point. He wound up again. The motion was fluid. He didn't activate the power yet. He waited. He waited until the very last millisecond, the instant before the ball left his fingertips. Focus. Not the whole arm, just the finger. He channeled the ocean of power into the tip of his right index finger. Smash. The air cracked. A sonic boom echoed across the field. The ball shot upward like a cannon shell, piercing the clouds. Pain shot up his hand. His finger was purple, broken, throbbing with agony. Izuku gasped, clutching his hand, but he turned to Aizawa with a teary, defiant smile. Sensei. Izuku panted. I can still move. The class was stunned. He threw it over 700 meters. His finger is swollen. That was awesome. Izuku waited for the verdict. He waited for the not bad, or the you pass. He saw Aizawa look at the device. 705.3 meters. Just barely beating Bakugo. Aizawa lowered the device. He looked at Izuku's broken finger. Then he looked at Izuku's shaking legs. Midoriya, Aizawa said. Yes, sir. Izuku straightened up, hiding the pain. Go to the nurse's office. Get that healed. All right. Izuku felt a surge of relief. He had done it. He had proven. And then Aizawa continued, his voice completely devoid of warmth. Pack your things. You're expelled. The world stopped. The wind died. The chatter of the class cut off as if a wire had been snipped. What? Izuku whispered. Aizawa turned his back on him. I said you're expelled? Go home. But... Izuku took a step forward. But I got over 700 meters. I minimized the injury. You broke a finger throwing a ball, Aizawa said, not turning around. In a real battle you would have just disarmed yourself. You relied on a self-destructive burst of power because you lacked the fundamental control to function as a hero. You are a liability. Wait! Uraraka shouted. She ran forward. Teacher, that's not fair. He got a huge score. He tried his hardest. Fairness? Aizawa spun around, his glare silencing her. Is a villain attack fair? Is a collapsing building fair? I told you. Yui is about overcoming the unfair. Midoriya has potential power, yes, but he has zero potential to control it before he gets himself, or his teammates killed. I will not have a student die on my watch because he thinks courage is a substitute for competence. He looked at Izuku again. The look wasn't angry anymore. It was just dismissive. I checked your entrance exam files. 0 points. You passed on rescue points because you broke your limbs to save one person. That is martyrdom, not heroism. We don't teach martyrs here. Aizawa tapped his clipboard. Everyone else, move to the endurance run. Midoriya. Leave. Now. Izuku looked at Bakugo. Bakugo's mouth was open slightly, his red eyes wide. For once, he had nothing to say. He looked horrified. Not happy, just shocked that his childhood nickname for Izuku, Deku, the useless one, had just been validated by a pro hero. Izuku looked at All Might, who was hiding behind a corner of the building in his muscle form. He saw All Might flinch. He saw All Might take a step as if to intervene, then stop. Why aren't you coming? Izuku pleaded silently. Save me. But All Might didn't move. Izuku lowered his head. The pain in his finger was throbbing in time with his heart. Tears pricked his eyes, hot and stinging. Yes, sir, he choked out. He walked past his classmates. He walked past Uraraka, who looked like she was about to cry. He walked past Ida, who was adjusting his glasses nervously. He walked past Bakugo, who didn't make a sound. He walked off the field. The walk to the locker room was a blur. He changed out of his gym clothes with one hand, wincing every time his broken finger brushed against fabric. He didn't go to the nurse. He didn't want recovery girl to heal him. He felt like he deserved the pain. He went to the classroom, 1A. It was empty. His bag was sitting on his desk. The desk he had sat in for exactly 3 hours. He picked up the bag. I failed. All Might gave me everything. He gave me his hair. His power. His secret. And I failed on the first day. The door slid open. Midoriya. Izuku jumped. It wasn't Aizawa. It was a small mouse bear dog creature in a suit. Principal Nizu. And behind him, a very skinny, very guilty-looking blonde man. All Might. Izuku whispered. Young Midoriya, All Might said. His voice was weak. He coughed, a spatter of blood hitting his hand. I tried to speak to Aizawa. Come with us to the office, please, Nizu said pleasantly, though his black eyes were unreadable. The principal's office was a chaotic mess of tea sets and cheese. Izuku sat on a leather sofa, clutching his bag. His finger was still purple and swollen. Aizawa was there, too. He had finished the test with the other students, and come here. He stood by the window, arms crossed. I object to this, All Might said, slamming a skeletal hand on the desk. Aizawa, you are being too harsh. He has the heart of a hero. You saw that throw. He improvised. He broke his body, Aizawa countered calmly. All Might, you are blinded by favoritism. I don't know why you've taken an interest in this kid, but you are setting him up for a closed-casket funeral. Aizawa turned to Nizu. I have the authority to expel students. That is in my contract. I judge Izuku Midoriya's potential to be 0, not because his quirk is weak, but because his mindset is incompatible with his current ability level. He thinks power solves problems. It doesn't. He doesn't think that. All Might argued. He's just late to the starting line. Then he shouldn't be in the race, Aizawa snapped. UA is the top hero school. We are not a rehab center for reckless children. If he stays in the hero course, he will feel pressured to keep up with elemental types like Todoroki or Bakugo. He will keep breaking himself to match them. Eventually, the damage will be permanent. Or fatal. Izuku sat there, listening to them discuss his fate as if he were a broken toaster. Aizawa is right, Izuku realized with a sinking dread. He's trying to save my life. However, Nizu piped up, pouring a cup of tea. We do have a unique situation. Mr. Midoriya did pass the entrance exam. And All Might seems quite attached. Nizu looked at Izuku. Midoriya. Do you want to be a hero? More than anything, Izuku whispered. Even if it means you might die. Yes. Even if it means you are expelled from the hero course today? Izuku looked up. What? Nizu smiled. It was a sharp, predatory smile. Mr. Aizawa's decision stands. You are expelled from Class 1A. We cannot have a student who breaks his bones every time he uses his quirk in field exercises. It is a liability. Izuku felt the tears finally spill over. The dream was dead. But Nizu continued, expulsion from UA entirely seems wasteful. You have high academic scores. Your written exam was nearly perfect. You have an analytical mind. Niza slid a piece of paper across the desk. We have an opening in Department of General Education. Class 1C, Izuku stared at the paper. General Education. The class for the rejects. The class for the kids who didn't make the cut. The civilians. You can transfer, Niza said. Effective immediately. You will not take hero classes. You will not do combat training. You will study standard curriculum. But... All Might started. It is the only offer, Aizawa said. He looked at Izuku. If you truly want to be a hero, figure out how to use your power without destroying yourself. Do it on your own time. If you can prove you've mastered it, the sports festival allows for transfer students. Aizawa's eyes bore into Izuku's. But don't hold your breath. No one has ever made the jump from Gen Ed to Hero course. It's illogical to assume you will be the first. Izuku looked at the paper. It was a demotion. It was a humiliation. He would be walking the same halls as Bakugo and Uraraka, but wearing a different uniform, labeled as a failure. But it was a chance. He looked at All Might. The symbol of peace looked devastated. He looked like he wanted to take one for all back. He looked like he regretted giving it to a quirkless boy. That look ignited a spark of anger in Izuku's chest. Not at All Might, but at the situation. At the universe. Zero potential? I'll show you. Izuku reached out and took the paper. His broken finger throbbed, a reminder of his weakness. I'll take it, Izuku said. His voice was shaky, but firm. I'll go to Class 1C. Good choice, Niza said. Recovery girl will fix your finger. Report to homeroom 1C tomorrow morning. The sun was setting by the time Izuku left the school gates. The beautiful blue sky had turned into a bruised purple. He walked slowly. His finger was healed, wrapped in a small bandage, but his energy was drained. Recovery girl had scolded him for 10 minutes straight, calling him a boy with a death wish. He stopped at the intersection where he usually parted ways with Bakugo. He was alone. I'm sorry. All Might stepped out from behind a telephone pole. He was in his skinny form, looking like a ghost in his oversized yellow suit. Young Midoriya. I should have spoken up more. I should have trained you better. All Might slumped. Maybe I rushed this. Maybe I put too much on your shoulders. Izuku gripped the strap of his backpack. Are you asking for it back? What? All Might looked up. One for all, Izuku said. Are you asking for it back? Because I failed? No. All Might waved his hands. No, I chose you. But... Aizawa is right. This path, it might kill you. General education, it's a safe life. You can go to college. You can be a police officer. You can. I'm not giving up, Izuku said. He turned to face his idol. For the first time, Izuku didn't look at him with stars in his eyes. He looked at him with a desperate, hungry intensity. Aizawa-sensei said I have zero potential because I can't control it. He said I'm a one-trick pony. Izuku clenched his fist. So I have to change. I can't just be a lesser version of you, All Might. I can't just smash things. If I do that, I'll never get out of Class 1C. Izuku looked at the prestigious glass windows of UA reflecting the sunset. I'm going to stay in Gen Ed. And I'm going to study. I'm going to analyze every quirk in Class 1A. I'm going to figure out how to use this power without breaking. And when the sports festival comes, Izuku wiped his eyes. I'm going to beat them. All of them. Even Kaken. Even the recommendation students. I'm going to force Aizawa to look at me and say he was wrong. All Might stared at the boy. He saw the fire. It wasn't the bright, happy fire of a traditional hero. It was a darker, grittier flame. The flame of someone with something to prove. Okay, All Might said softly. A smile touched his skeletal face. Okay. Then I won't give up either. I can't teach you as a UA teacher anymore. It would look like favoritism. But meet me at the beach. We start from scratch. Right, Izuku nodded. He turned and walked toward the train station. He was Izuku Midoriya. Formerly quirkless. Currently quirk destructive. Student of Class 1C. the boy with zero potential. And he was just getting started. The alarm clock did not ring. Izuku Midoriya had woken up 5 minutes before it was set to go off, staring at the ceiling of his bedroom. The All Might posters that plastered the walls, usually a source of comfort and inspiration, now felt like a jury of smiling judges. They were all beaming down at him with the same confident grin, a grin that seemed to say, "You can do it," but he hadn't done it. Izuku rolled out of bed, his body heavy, as if gravity had doubled overnight. He went through the motions of the morning routine like a ghost haunting his own life. Brush teeth. Wash face. Stare at the mirror. The reflection showed a boy with messy green hair and freckles, eyes puffy from a night of restless sleep. He looked the same as he did yesterday. But yesterday, he had been a hero course student. Today, he was a reject. He walked back to his room and picked up his uniform. The gray blazer, the dark green pants, the red tie. It was the standard UA uniform. To the outside world, wearing this meant you were elite. You were a student of the most prestigious high school in Japan. But inside the gates, there was a caste system. And Izuku had just been demoted to the untouchables. "Izuku?" His mother's voice called from the kitchen. "Breakfast is ready." "Coming, Mom," he replied, his voice cracking slightly. He dressed slowly. He avoided looking at the red shoes, the same ones he wore when he broke his finger. His finger was healed now, thanks to Recovery Girl, but a phantom ache lingered in the bone, a reminder of the logical ruse that hadn't been a ruse at all. When he entered the kitchen, Inko Midoriya was hovering over a plate of fish and rice, her anxiety radiating off her in waves. She knew. He had told her last night. He hadn't told her about One for All, of course, but he had told her he was moved to general education. "Do you have everything?" Inko asked, wringing her hands. "Your notebooks? Your lunch? Maybe I should pack you an extra juice box? You need the sugar for your brain if you're going to be studying so hard." "I'm fine, Mom," Izuku said, forcing a smile that felt like it was made of glass. "General Ed it's still UA. It's still a great school." "Of course it is," Inko said too quickly. She hugged him, burying her face in his shoulder. I'm just glad you're safe. When you came home with that broken finger, oh Izuku, maybe this is for the best. No villain fighting. No breaking bones. You can be a police officer. Or a doctor. You're so smart." Izuku hugged her back, closing his eyes. She's relieved, he realized. She doesn't believe in me as a hero. She loves me, but she doesn't believe I can survive it. That hurt more than Aizawa's expulsion. "I'm going now," he said, pulling away gently. "Be careful on the way." Izuku stepped out the door. The morning air was crisp. The sun was shining just as brightly as it had yesterday. It felt insulting. The train ride was suffocating. Izuku stood in the corner of the car, clutching the handrail. He saw other students in uniforms. 2 girls were chatting excitedly about their homeroom teachers. "We got midnight," one squealed. "Can you believe it? Hero art history. We got ectoplasm for math," the other groaned. "He's so scary." Izuku looked down at his shoes. He wasn't part of that conversation anymore. He arrived at the station and began the walk up the long hill to the campus. The barrier was visible ahead, the massive UA gate. Yesterday, he had walked through that gate with his heart pounding in terror and excitement. Today, he walked through it with his head down, trying to make himself as small as possible. He saw a flash of ash-blonde hair ahead. Bakugo. Izuku's instinct was to freeze, to wait for the explosion, the yelling, the Deku, but Bakugo didn't turn around. He was walking with his hands in his pockets, his shoulders hunched aggressively. He looked furious. Not his usual volatile anger, but a brooding, quiet seething. He stomped toward the main building, the Hero Tower. Izuku had to turn left. The Hero Course classes, 1A and 1B, were located in the main thoroughfare, the sunlit center of the campus with the high ceilings and the massive doors. The General Education Department, classes 1C, 1D, and 1E, were in the East Wing. It was a perfectly nice building. It was modern, clean, and high-tech. But to Izuku, walking away from the Hero Tower felt like walking off a cliff. He navigated the hallways. They were quieter here. There was no shouting, no quirk usage in the halls. The students he passed looked normal. Some looked bored. Some looked studious. None of them had that spark of chaotic energy that Class 1A had. He found the door. 1C. He stood in front of it for a long minute. This was it. This was his new reality. I can turn back, a treacherous part of his mind whispered. I can quit. I can go to a regular high school. I don't have to suffer this humiliation. He clenched his hand into a fist. He remembered the sensation of one for all, the lightning in his veins. No. I'm here. I'm still in UA. He slid the door open. The chatter inside was low volume. The class was already half full. The students looked ordinary. There were no engines and legs, no bird heads, no invisible girls. There were quirks, sure. Someone had blue skin, someone else had elongated fingers, but they were background quirks. The kind society deemed useful for office work or manual labor, not heroism. Izuku scanned the room for an empty seat. The seating chart was written on the chalkboard. Midoriya Izuku seat 18, back row. Near the window, he walked to his desk, feeling eyes on him. Is that him? Someone whispered. The kid from the entrance exam? I heard he got 0 points. No, I heard he took down the 0-pointer and shattered his whole body. Izuku kept his head down, sliding into his chair. He pulled out his notebook, not his hero analysis one, but a fresh, blank school notebook. He stared at the white page. You're blocking my view. The voice was deep, tired, and slightly raspy. Izuku jumped and turned to his left. Sitting at the desk next to him was a boy with gravity-defying purple hair and deep, dark bags under his eyes that rivaled Aizawa's. He was leaning back in his chair, staring at Izuku with a look of utter disinterest mixed with mild annoyance. Oh! I'm sorry! Izuku stammered, shifting his chair. The boy didn't look away. His eyes scanned Izuku up and down, lingering on the bandages on Izuku's right hand. You're the one who got kicked out, the boy stated. It wasn't a question. Izuku flinched. Word travels fast. This is UA, the boy said. Gossip travels faster than light. They say Aizawa expelled someone on the first day. A kid who threw a ball 700 meters and broke his finger doing it. The boy's eyes narrowed. There was a sharpness to them now, a glint of hostility. So, you have a powerful quirk. A quirk that can destroy giant robots and break sound barriers, and you manage to get expelled with it. That takes a special kind of incompetence. Izuku felt heat rise in his cheeks. It's complicated. I can't control it yet. Must be nice, the boy scoffed, looking back at the front of the room. To have a quirk so strong that your biggest problem is too much power. Some of us are here because the entrance exam isn't built for our kind of power at all. Izuku blinked. He looked at the boy properly. He remembered seeing him briefly at the entrance exam explanation, in the crowd. I'm Midoriya. Izuku Midoriya. The boy ignored him for a moment, twirling a pen in his fingers. Then, he sighed. Shinso. Hitoshi Shinso. Shinso-kun, Izuku said, his analytical brain switching on automatically. You said the exam wasn't built for you? Does that mean your quirk is mental? Or status effect based? The robots were biased toward physical emitters and mutation types, so if you have a quirk that requires a human target or a biological nervous system, you would be at a severe disadvantage. Shinso stopped twirling his pen. He looked at Izuku, eyebrows raised. You talk a lot. Sorry. I analyze quirks. It's a hobby. A hobby, Shinso muttered. He looked at Izuku with a strange expression, like he was trying to solve a puzzle. If you're that smart, why are you here? Why didn't you just use your god-tier strength to pass? Because I'm not good enough yet, Izuku said softly. I have the power, but I don't have the sense. I thought I could just smash my way through. Aizawa-sensei showed me I was wrong. Shinso stared at him for a long beat. Aizawa. Eraserhead. He's our homeroom teacher? No, Izuku said. He's Class 1A. I don't know who ours is. As if on cue, the door slid open. A tall, blocky man walked in. He was made of cement. I am Cementos, the hero said, his voice deep and rumbling. I will be your homeroom teacher for the year. Take your seats. Homeroom is beginning. The class hurried to sit. Cementos scanned the room, his eyes landing on Izuku in the back. He gave a small, almost imperceptible nod, then turned to the board. Welcome to the Department of General Education, Cementos said. Here, we support the heroes. We run the logistics, the management, the society that allows heroes to function. But, many of you are here because you failed to make the hero course. You are bitter. You are angry. The room was silent. Cementos wasn't sugarcoating it. Use that, Cementos said. UE allows transfers. If you perform exceptionally well in the sports festival, you can move up. But be warned, the hero course students are training in combat every day. You are studying English and modern literature. The gap will widen every single day. If you want to catch them, you have to run twice as fast. Izuku felt a chill go down his spine. Twice as fast. He looked at his hand. He looked at Shinso, who was staring at Cementos with a burning intensity. I'm not the only one who wants to climb that wall, Izuku thought. The morning classes were excruciatingly normal. English with Present Mike was the only highlight, mostly because Present Mike treated Gen Ed with the same high-volume energy he treated the hero course. But after that, it was math, history, and science. By the time lunch rolled around, Izuku's brain felt numb. He had spent the last 3 years dreaming of hero training, rescue drills, combat sparring, quirk counseling. Instead, he had just spent an hour learning about the history of quirk registration laws. He walked to the cafeteria alone. The lunch rush cafeteria was massive, filled with students from all departments. Support course students were tinkering with gadgets at their tables and occasionally causing small explosions. Business course students were trading stocks on their phones. And then, there was the hero course table. It was in the center, naturally. Izuku saw them. He saw Ida making chopping motions with his hands while talking to Uraraka. He saw Todoroki eating cold soba in silence. He saw Bakugo stabbing his food aggressively. They looked tired. They had bruises. Uraraka had a band-aid on her cheek. Their training, Izuku thought, a pang of jealousy piercing his gut. They probably spent the morning doing something amazing. He got his tray of katsudon and looked for a place to sit. He didn't want to sit near them. He couldn't bear the pity in Uraraka's eyes or the confusion in Ida's. He found an empty table in the far corner, near the recycling bins. He sat down, opened his notebook, and began to write. Analysis of failure, Day 1. Problem: 100% output results in skeletal fracture. 0% output results in average human performance. Current strategy: use 100% only on small body parts fingers. Aizawa called this a liability. He is correct. If I break all 10 fingers, I am defenseless. Goal: I need a middle ground. Is there a 50%? A 10%? Visualization: the egg in the microwave. If I don't lower the heat, the egg explodes. I need to lower the heat. But how? When I turn it on, it's like opening a floodgate. It's all or nothing. Is this seat taken? Izuku looked up. It was Shinso again. He was holding a tray with a simple sandwich and a coffee. And no. Go ahead. Shinso sat down opposite him. He didn't start eating immediately. He watched Izuku scribbling. You're muttering, Shinso observed. I am? Izuku slapped a hand over his mouth. Sorry. Bad habit. You're analyzing yourself? Shinso tried to read the upside-down writing. Yeah, Izuku sighed, flipping the notebook shut. I'm trying to figure out how to not be a liability. Shinso took a sip of his coffee. You know, when I heard about you, I thought you were just some arrogant punk who didn't take things seriously. But you look like you're about to have a nervous breakdown. That's my default state, Izuku admitted with a weak chuckle. Why didn't you fight it? Shinso asked suddenly. The expulsion. You have a flashy quirk. The school loves flashy quirks. If you had argued, or gotten your parents involved. Because he was right, Izuku said. The words tasted bitter but true. Aizawa-sensei. He said I was trying to be a martyr, not a hero. He said I'd just get people killed. I can't argue with logic like that. If I can't control this power, I don't deserve to be in Class A. Shinso's expression softened, just a fraction. He looked down at his own hands. My quirk, Shinso said quietly, is brainwashing. Izuku's eyes widened. Brainwashing? Yeah. If I ask a question and someone answers, I can take control of their mind. I can make them do whatever I want. Shinso looked up, his eyes guarded, waiting for the inevitable reaction, waiting for Izuku to call it a villain's quirk. That's amazing! Izuku exclaimed, leaning over the table. Shinso blinked, taken aback. Ha! That's an incredible capture quirk. Izuku started rambling, his hands moving excitedly. You could defuse hostage situations instantly. You could stop villains without causing any property damage. It's the ultimate stealth hero ability. Wait, that's why the entrance exam was bad for you. You couldn't brainwash the robots because they don't have minds to control. That's so unfair. The system is completely biased against mental quirks. Shinso stared at him. He looked around, as if checking to see if this was a prank. You don't think it's villainous? Villainous? Izuku looked confused. Why? Because you control people? So does a taser. So does a restraining bolt. A quirk is just a tool, Shinso-kun. It depends on how you use it, and if you want to be a hero, then it's a hero's quirk. Shinso sat in silence for a long moment. The tension in his shoulders, which seemed to be a permanent fixture, dropped by an inch. He took a bite of his sandwich to hide his face. You're a weird guy, Midoriya. I get that a lot, Izuku beamed. But Shinso swallowed. You're right about the robots. I couldn't get a single point. I only passed into Gen Ed because of my written scores. It's frustrating. Watching guys like that. He gestured toward the hero table, where Bakugo was currently yelling at a carton of milk. Get in just because they can blow things up. Then we have to show them, Izuku said. The playful demeanor vanished, replaced by that intense, gritty fire. The sports festival is in a few weeks. That's our only chance. I know, Shinso said. But I can't fight. Once people know my quirk, they just won't talk to me. If it comes down to a brawl, I lose. And I can't fight because if I use my quirk, I blow my arm off, Izuku countered. They looked at each other. Two broken pieces of the same puzzle. Izuku's brain started whirring. Gears clicked into place. Shinso-kun, Izuku said slowly. Do you exercise? I run. A bit. But I'm not a brawler. I know someone, Izuku said, thinking of the blonde skeleton waiting at the beach. Someone who is really good at teaching the basics of muscle building and form. And I need someone to spar with. Someone I can't just overpower. Shinso raised an eyebrow. Are you asking me on a date, Midoriya? I'm asking for an alliance, Izuku said, dead serious. I help you get physically stronger, so you can hold your own when your quirk fails. You help me, mental training. Help me learn to fight without relying on my quirk. We spar. We study. We beat Class 1A. Shinso looked at Izuku's outstretched hand. It was scarred and calloused. Shinso smirked. It was a dry, cynical smirk, but it was genuine. Zero potential, huh? Shinso said. Let's see about that. He shook Izuku's hand. The rest of the school day passed in a blur. When the final bell rang, Izuku packed his bag with a speed he hadn't possessed that morning. He had a plan. He had a partner. He met Shinso at the shoe lockers. So, Shinso asked, slinging his bag over his shoulder. Where is this secret training ground? Dagoba Municipal Beach Park, Izuku said. The garbage dump? It used to be. It's clean now. Well, mostly. They walked to the station together. It was strange, Izuku thought, having a friend who wasn't Ida or Uraraka. Shinso was quiet, observant. He didn't feel the need to fill every silence. It was comfortable. When they arrived at the beach, the sun was beginning to dip low, painting the ocean in hues of orange and gold. The sand was pristine, a testament to Izuku's 10 months of hell. Standing by the railing, looking out at the waves, was All Might. He was in his civilian form, skinny, sunken eyes, messy hair. He wore a baggy yellow suit that looked 2 sizes too big. All Might! Izuku called out, waving. Shinso froze. He grabbed Izuku's shoulder. Midoriya. Why is there a crackhead waving at us? That's my trainer, Izuku lied quickly. His name is Tashinori. He's eccentric. They walked down to the sand. All Might turned, a smile lighting up his gaunt face. Young Midoriya! You came! And you brought a friend? All Might looked at Shinso, surprised. He quickly adjusted his posture, trying to look somewhat authoritative despite his appearance. This is Hitoshi Shinso, Izuku introduced. He's in Class 1C with me. He wants to be a hero too. I told him we could train together. All Might looked at Shinso. He saw the purple hair, the tired eyes, the slight defensive slouch. He saw a boy who had been overlooked. Welcome, young Shinso, All Might said, coughing slightly into his fist. Any friend of Midoriya is welcome here. But be warned. My training regimen is not for the faint of heart. It is hell. It is vomit. It is— Wait, where are you going? Shinso had taken a step back. Midoriya, I think I'll just stick to the gym. No, wait, he's actually really good, Izuku pleaded. He trained me. I couldn't even lift a microwave before I met him. Shinso looked at Izuku's muscles, hidden under the uniform, but undeniably there. He looked back at the skeleton man. Fine, Shinso sighed. But if he tries to sell me illegal supplements, I'm calling the cops. Excellent. All Might clapped his hands. First, we stretch. Then, we spar. Midoriya, I want you to focus on your footwork today. No quirk usage. Shinso, let's assess your baseline physical stats. The training began. It was grueling. All Might, despite his frailty, was a sadistic taskmaster when it came to calisthenics. He had Shinso running sprints in the soft sand until the boy was gasping for air, his legs burning. He had Izuku practicing dodge drills, throwing tennis balls at him at high speeds. Think, Midoriya. All Might yelled as a ball whacked Izuku in the forehead. Don't just react. Anticipate. Look at my shoulder. Look at my hips. An hour later, both boys collapsed onto the sand, sweating and panting. The sky was a deep indigo now. The first stars were appearing. Water break, All Might declared, tossing them bottles. He sat down on a nearby bench, watching them. His expression was somber. Young Midoriya, All Might said softly. Can I speak to you for a moment? Privately? Shinso, sensing the mood, stood up. I'm gonna go run one more lap. Cool down. He jogged away down the shoreline. Izuku sat up, wiping sweat from his brow. What is it, All Might? All Might looked at his hands. I went to see Recovery Girl today. She told me about your finger. She said the bone looked like it had exploded from the inside. It's healed, Izuku said quickly. The body heals. But the trauma remains. All Might looked at Izuku, his blue eyes piercing. I've been thinking, my boy. About what Aizawa said? About zero potential. Izuku stiffened. You agree with him? No. Never. All Might shook his head vigorously. But I fear I have burdened you. One for all, it is a cursed power in many ways. It grows stronger with every generation. The power I hold, it might be too much for a body that started quirkless. If you continue like this, if you keep shattering yourself, you might lose the use of your arms. Or worse. All Might took a deep breath. There is a way to transfer it back. Or to someone else. If you want to step away. If you want to live a normal life. No one would blame you, Izuku. You've done enough. The sound of the waves seemed to amplify the silence that followed. Izuku looked at the sand. He picked up a handful, letting the grains slip through his fingers. Do you remember, Izuku said quietly, when I asked you if I could be a hero without a quirk? On that roof? I remember, All Might said, and you said no? You were realistic. Izuku looked up. Then you gave me this power. You gave me a chance. If I give it back now, I go back to being nothing. I go back to being the Deku who just watches. Izuku stood up. His legs were shaking from exhaustion, but he stood tall. I'm not giving it back, All Might. It hurts. It's scary. And I'm in the reject class. But I can feel it. Inside me. It's not just power. It's voices. Wills. They want me to succeed. He clenched his fist, glowing faintly with the embers of one for all. Aizawa thinks I have zero potential because I rely on the smash. So I'll stop smashing. I'll figure this out. I'll analyze it like I analyze everything else. It's just energy, right? Energy flows. I just have to change the pipes. All Might stared at him. He saw the change. Before, Izuku was a fanboy trying to imitate a god. Now, he was a young man grappling with a burden, and choosing to carry it. Tears welled up in All Might's eyes. He wiped them away quickly. You truly are strong, young Midoriya. Stronger than I was at your age. All Might stood up and placed a hand on Izuku's shoulder. Very well. Then we change the approach. No more smashing. We focus on flow. We focus on the mind. Hey! Shinso called out, jogging back. He looked exhausted but determined. Are we done? Because I think I can't feel my legs anymore. Izuku smiled at Shinso. We're just getting started, Shinso-kun. Great, Shinso deadpanned. Can we get ramen? I'm starving. Ramen sounds good, All Might agreed, transforming into his buff form for a split second, poof, before coughing blood and shrinking back. Excuse me. Yes. Ramen is on me. Did he just deflate? Shinso whispered to Izuku. It's a medical condition. Izuku hissed. Don't ask. As they walked away from the beach, toward the city lights, Izuku felt a shift in the air. He wasn't in Class 1A. He wasn't on the path to glory he had imagined. He was in the trenches. He was in the dirt. But he wasn't alone. And for the first time since Aizawa's red eyes had glared at him, Izuku Midoriya believed, truly believed, that 0 was just a starting number. Later that night, Izuku sat at his desk. The house was quiet. He had his notebook open. Quirk Control, Project Full Cowl Draft 1. He drew a diagram of his body. He drew the power as a pool in his stomach. Usually, I draw it from the pool into the limb. That creates a pressure spike. Like a water balloon filling too fast. What if I don't draw it? What if I let it leak? Constant, low-level flow. Everywhere. Not just the arm. The legs. The chest. The head. He closed his eyes. He reached for the spark. Not the bonfire, just the ember. He tried to spread it. It was slippery, chaotic. It wanted to explode. He gritted his teeth. Hold it. Keep it small. 1%. 2%. Green lightning crackled softly around his body. It was faint. It flickered like a dying bulb. But his bones didn't break. The lightning sizzled out after 3 seconds. Izuku gasped, sweating profusely. But he smiled. It was a start. The gap between the hero course and general education was not measured in distance. Physically, the classrooms were only separated by 2 hallways and a flight of stairs. You could walk it in 3 minutes. But in the hierarchy of UA High School, the distance was light years. 3 weeks had passed since the first day of school. 3 weeks since Shota Aizawa had looked Izuku Midoriya in the eye and told him he had 0 potential. 3 weeks of wearing the standard gray uniform, sitting in standard rows, and learning standard curriculum while explosions and cheers echoed from the grounds outside the window. To the students of Class 1C, the hero course was a different species. They were the celebrities, the golden children, the ones who walked with their chests puffed out and their quirks blazing. Izuku sat in the back row of Class 1C, his pen scratching furiously against his notebook. It was lunchtime, but he wasn't eating. He was watching a video on his phone, a grainy, zoomed-in clip recorded by a drone of yesterday's hero basic training. You're doing it again, a tired voice droned from the next desk. Izuku didn't look up. Doing what? Torturing yourself, Hitoshi Shinso said, popping the tab on a can of coffee. Watching them. Analyzing them. It's masochistic, Midoriya. It's like a starving man watching a cooking show. Izuku paused the video. On the screen, a blurry image of Katsuki Bakugo was midair, blasting a building. It's not torture, Izuku murmured, though the tight feeling in his chest suggested otherwise. It's research. If we're going to beat them in the sports festival, we need to know what they can do. Look at this. Bakugo's reaction time has improved by 0.2 seconds since middle school. He's using his explosions to pivot in midair now. He's not just a turret anymore. He's a missile. Shinso leaned over, his purple eyes scanning the screen with disdain. Great. A flying angry Pomeranian. Just what the world needed. And look here, Izuku tapped the screen, switching to a different clip. Todoroki. He freezes the building instantly to stabilize it. He's not just raw power. His structural awareness is genius level. And Ida, his engines have higher torque in second gear than I estimated. Shinso sighed, leaning back in his chair and staring at the ceiling. You talk about them like they're gods. They're just kids who won the genetic lottery. They're kids who are getting training we aren't, Izuku corrected, closing the notebook. Every day they spend in the USJ or ground beta, the gap widens. We can't just be good. We have to be smarter. We have to see the things they miss because they're too busy showing off. Speaking of showing off, Shinso muttered, you look like a zombie. Did you sleep last night? I slept, Izuku lied. He hadn't. He had spent the night at Tagoba Beach, trying to hold the lightning inside his body without letting it shatter his bones. He had spent 4 hours meditating, trying to maintain 1% of one for all. He had managed to hold it for 10 seconds before the power surged uncontrollably, and he had to discharge it into the ocean to save his arm. His body ached. His muscles felt like they were made of lead. But he forced a smile. I'm fine, Shinso-kun. Just focused. Right, Shinso said, not believing him for a second. Come on. Let's go to the cafeteria before the business course buys all the good bread. The cafeteria was the one place where the caste system of UA became physically visible. The tables were arranged in long rows. By unwritten social law, the hero course students sat in the center, under the skylights, bathed in sunshine. The support course sat near the windows, tinkering with their loud gadgets. The business course huddled near the exits, making calls, and general education sat in the shadows of the mezzanine, the overflow seating. Izuku and Shinso carried their trays up the stairs. The noise level below was deafening. Laughter, shouting, the occasional quirk activation. Izuku looked over the railing. He spotted the table. That table. Class 1A was eating together. It was a strange, eclectic group. Uraraka was laughing at something the boy with the tape dispenser elbows Zero, Izuku's mind supplied, said. Ida was chopping the air with his hands, lecturing them on proper nutrition. And there was Bakugo, sitting at the end of the table, radiating a sullen aura that kept everyone at a 2-foot distance. Suddenly Uraraka looked up. Her eyes scanned the mezzanine, and locked onto Izuku. She stopped laughing. She nudged Ida. Ida looked up, adjusted his glasses, and waved stiffly. Uraraka offered a small, sad wave. It wasn't a wave of greeting. It was a wave of apology. Sorry you're up there. Sorry we're down here. Izuku raised his hand to wave back, but before he could, Bakugo looked up. Their eyes met across the noisy cafeteria. Red clashed with green. Bakugo didn't scowl. He didn't scream. He just stared. His eyes narrowed, searching Izuku's face for something. Weakness? Resignation? He's waiting for me to quit, Izuku realized. He's confused why I'm still here. In his mind, a Deku without a quirk is useless, but a Deku who failed is even worse. He thinks I'm just haunting the school. Izuku lowered his hand. He didn't wave at Bakugo. He just held the gaze, refusing to look away. Stop staring at the sun, Icarus, Shinso said, nudging him toward a table. You'll go blind. They sat down. The table was scratched and wobbly. I hate this, a girl at the next table whispered to her friend. Did you see the news? Class 1A got interviewed this morning because All Might is teaching their foundational hero studies. Meanwhile, we got a lecture on ethics of bystander intervention. It's so unfair, her friend replied. I bet half of them can't even do calculus. The bitterness in the air was thick enough to taste. It was different from the bullying in middle school. In middle school, Izuku was mocked for being quirkless. Here, everyone had quirks, but they were united by a shared sense of inadequacy. They were the almosts. The not quite good enoughs. They're bitter, Shinso observed, picking at his rice. It's ugly. It's natural, Izuku said, opening his lunch box. They came here with dreams. Now they're watching someone else live them. And you? Shinso asked. Are you bitter, Midoriya? Izuku looked at his scarred hand. He clenched it. No. I don't have time to be bitter. I'm too busy trying to catch up. Shinso smirked. Good answer. The afternoon classes were a blur of modern literature and mathematics. Izuku excelled at them. It was almost insulting how easy the academic work was compared to the physical and mental strain of his secret life. He answered every question correctly. He took perfect notes, but his mind was elsewhere. He was thinking about the sensation of One for All, the egg in the microwave. If I don't lower the heat, the egg explodes. But I can't find the dial. The dial is stuck on max. Wait. Izuku paused, his pen hovering over a calculus equation. I'm visualizing it as an appliance. A machine. You turn a machine on or off. But it's not a machine. It's organic. It's a part of me. Like a muscle. You don't turn on a bicep to 100% every time you pick up a cup. You just flex. It's not a switch. It's a flow. Midoriya, ectoplasm's voice cut through his thoughts. Please solve problem 4 on the board. Izuku stood up, walked to the board, and solved the complex integral in 30 seconds. He sat back down without really seeing the numbers. Flow, he thought. Like breathing. The alarm shattered the afternoon calm like a hammer through glass. Level 3 security breach. All students, please evacuate in an orderly fashion. The robotic voice blared through the speakers, accompanied by a shrill siren. Class 1C froze. Level 3? Someone asked, panic rising in their voice. What's level 3? It means someone's in the building, Shinso said, standing up immediately. Someone who shouldn't be. Villains? Is it a villain attack? Everyone stay calm. The class representative, a girl with extendable fingers, shouted. Follow the evacuation drill. Single file. They poured out into the hallway. It was chaos. The hallway, usually quiet, was now a river of panicked bodies. Students from the business and support courses were rushing toward the designated shelters. The alarm was deafening. Don't push. Move. Get out of the way. Izuku was shoved against the lockers. He grabbed Shinso's arm to keep them together. This isn't right, Izuku shouted over the noise. The barrier? UA's security system is state-of-the-art. How could someone just break in? Maybe they have a warping quirk? Shinso suggested, using his shoulder to block a panicked student from crushing Izuku. They reached the intersection that connected the east wing to the main corridor. The scene was a stampede. Hundreds of students were crushing toward the exit. It's a choke point, Izuku analyzed instantly, his eyes darting around. The architectural design narrows here to funnel students for security checks, but in a mass panic, it becomes a trap. If someone trips, people will get trampled. Ahead, in the center of the crush, Izuku saw the hero course students. They were struggling just as much as everyone else. Back up! Everyone back up! Kirishima was yelling, but his voice was drowned out. Izuku stood on his tiptoes. He looked out the massive glass windows that lined the corridor. Outside on the front lawn was a swarm of people. Microphones. Cameras. Wait, Izuku blinked. Cameras? He squinted. He recognized the logos on the vans. NHA News. Hero TV. The Daily. It's the media! Izuku shouted, but his voice was lost in the scream of the siren. Midoriya! Shinso yelled. We're getting crushed here. Izuku looked at the window again. He looked at the panicked students. Someone had to stop this. In the canon timeline, this would be the moment Ida Tenya floated above the exit sign and calmed the crowd. But Ida was currently buried under a pile of terrified business course students, his glasses askew, paralyzed by the chaos. He wasn't leading. He was panicking. Why isn't he moving? Izuku thought. He's the class rep for 1A, isn't he? Then he remembered. The USJ hadn't happened yet. The rigorous training hadn't kicked in. Without the confidence of being the chosen ones, 1A was just a group of scared teenagers. Izuku looked around. He couldn't use his quirk. If he used 100% to smash a wall or create a noise, he'd be expelled for real this time. And he'd break his arm. Shinso, Izuku grabbed Shinso's collar. Can you project your voice? Not over this siren. Izuku looked at a fire alarm box on the wall. It had a PA override microphone for emergency personnel. It was behind a glass case. "Cover me," Izuku said. "What?" Izuku didn't wait. He ducked under the flailing arms of a third-year student and weaved through the crowd. He reached the wall. He smashed the glass with his elbow, ignoring the sting, and grabbed the microphone. He didn't scream. Screaming adds to panic. He remembered All Might's interviews. Deep. Resonant. Calm. He took a deep breath. "Attention, UA students." His voice boomed through the hallway speakers, cutting through the siren for a brief second due to the override priority. The sudden change in audio caused a ripple of confusion. The pushing slowed, just for a heartbeat. "Look out the window." Izuku didn't say calm down. He gave an instruction. A task. Hundreds of heads turned toward the glass. "It is not villains. It is the media. The press has breached the gate. There is no danger. Please walk slowly." The stampede stopped. Students pressed their faces against the glass. They saw the reporters swarming the lawn like ants. It's just the news? Oh my God, are you serious? Don't push me, you idiot. It's just reporters." The tension evaporated instantly, replaced by annoyance and relief. The flow of the crowd shifted from fleeing for lives to grumbling walk. Izuku hung up the microphone. His hand was shaking. Shinso appeared beside him, looking impressed. "Not bad, Midoriya. You sounded like a subway conductor." I saw Ada wasn't moving," Izuku breathed, leaning against the wall. Someone had to do it. Across the hall, the crowd thinned. Izuku saw Class 1A regrouping. Ida was standing up, dusting himself off. He looked ashamed. He looked toward the PA speaker, then looked around, trying to find who had spoken. He didn't see Izuku. Izuku had already blended back into the shadows of the general ed crowd. "Let's go," Izuku said to Shinso, before a teacher asked who broke the glass. Later that afternoon, the police had arrived. The reporters were chased off. The school declared the day over. Most students went straight home, eager to escape the stress. Izuku didn't. "I'll catch up with you," Izuku told Shinso at the lockers. "I left something in the classroom." "You're a terrible liar," Shinso noted. "Don't get arrested." Izuku waited until the hallways were empty. Then, he walked out the front entrance. The massive steel barrier, the UA barrier, was closed again. But there was yellow police tape around the section that had been breached. Izuku ducked under the tape. He approached the twisted metal. The official story was that the sheer weight of the press crowd had forced the gate open. Izuku touched the edge of the metal. It wasn't bent. It wasn't snapped. It was disintegrated. The solid steel had turned to dust. It crumbled under his fingertip like dry sand. "Decay," Izuku whispered. A cold dread pooled in his stomach. This wasn't a crowd. Someone did this. Someone with a quirk that destroys matter. He looked at the ground. The dust pattern was specific. A handprint. Villains, he realized. Real villains. They used the press as a cover. They broke into, to do what? To get the schedule? To test the security? "Hey! You!" Izuku jumped. A teacher was striding toward him. It was Snipe, the cowboy hero. "This is a restricted area, son. Get back to the station." "Wait! Snipe-sensei." Izuku pointed at the gate. "Look at this." The metal didn't break, it turned to dust. A crowd couldn't do this. It was a villain. Snipe stopped. He looked at the gate, then at Izuku. He tilted his hat back. "We know the gate was damaged, kid. The police are investigating. You don't need to worry your head about it. But it's a specific quirk," Izuku insisted, his voice rising. "It's decay. If a villain with a touch-based disintegration quirk is inside," Snipe sighed. He looked at Izuku's uniform. He saw the general education pin. "Look, I appreciate the enthusiasm. But leave the detective work to the pros and the police. You gen ed kids get spooked easy, I get it. But we have top security. No villain got in." "But, go home, Midoriya," Snipe ordered, checking his name tag. "That's an order. Don't make me report you for interfering with a crime scene." Izuku's mouth snapped shut. He looked at Snipe. The hero wasn't listening. To him, Izuku was just a scared civilian making up stories. "If I were in Class 1A," Izuku thought bitterly. Would he listen? If I were Bakugo, or Todoroki, would he take me seriously? Yes, sir, Izuku said quietly. He turned and walked away. But he didn't stop thinking. They don't know. Or they're arrogant. They think the barrier is invincible. Something is coming. And they're walking right into it. That night, the beach was cold. Izuku stood shirtless on a pile of scrap metal, shivering in the sea breeze. Shinso was sitting on a nearby tire, holding a stopwatch. You look like you're trying to explode again, Shinso deadpanned. I met a teacher today, Izuku said, staring at his hands. I tried to warn him about the gate. He brushed me off. Because I'm nobody. Welcome to the club, Shinso said. That's life without a license. I can't be nobody, Izuku said. The anger from the afternoon flared up. It mixed with the fear of the decaying gate. Villains are coming. My friends, even if they don't talk to me anymore, are in Class 1A. They're targets. If the pros won't listen, I have to be ready. I have to master it, Izuku growled. Tonight. Right now. Midoriya, don't do anything stupid. Izuku closed his eyes. He went back to the microwave visualization. Forget the egg. Forget the machine. Think of the gate. The dust. Think of Snipe turning his back. Think of Aizawa's red eyes. I am not a glass cannon. I am not a victim. I am the vessel. He breathed in. He felt the power pool in his stomach. Usually, he grabbed it and threw it. This time, he imagined opening a sluice gate. Just a crack. Let it flow. Fill the veins. Fill the nerves. Don't hold it in one place. Circulate it. Midoriya? Shinso stood up. A low hum filled the air. Green sparks began to dance across Izuku's skin. Not the violent, jagged bolts of 100%. These were softer, rhythmic. They flowed from his feet to his head, cycling like blood. Izuku grit his teeth. The pain was there, a dull, electric ache, but it wasn't breaking him. It felt heavy. Like wearing a suit of lead armor. 5%, Izuku hissed through his teeth. Full. Calling. He opened his eyes. His irises were glowing a toxic green. He looked at Shinso. Shinso. Spar with me. Are you crazy? You're glowing. I need to move, Izuku said. I need to see if I can move without exploding. He took a step. The sand exploded beneath his foot. He didn't mean to launch himself that hard. He vanished. Too fast. He reappeared 10 feet away, crashing into a pile of tires. Bam! Midoriya! Shinso ran over. Izuku groaned, rolling out of the tires. He checked his arms. No brakes. He checked his legs. No brakes. He looked up, a wild grin spreading across his face. I didn't brake, he whispered. Shinso stared at him. You just moved faster than the eye could see. I didn't brake. Izuku laughed. It was a manic, desperate laugh. I can fight. Shinso, I can fight. He stood up, the green lightning flickering around him again. He bounced on the balls of his feet. The power was intoxicating. It was freedom. Again, Izuku commanded. Try to brainwash me. Try to hit me. I need to learn to control the speed. Shinso stepped back, looking at Izuku with a mix of fear and awe. This wasn't the stammering kid from the cafeteria. This was something else. Fine, Shinso said, raising his fists. But if you kill me, I'm haunting you. The next 2 weeks passed in a blur of exhaustion and progress. Izuku lived a double life. By day, he was the quiet student in Class 1C, acing tests and keeping his head down. He watched Class 1A from afar, noting their exhaustion, their growing arrogance, their complacency. By night, he was a green blur on the beach. He mastered 5%. It wasn't much compared to All Might, but compared to a normal human, it was superhuman. He could outrun a car. He could punch through wood. Most importantly, he could fight continuously. He sparred with Shinso every night. Shinso was improving too. He couldn't match Izuku's speed, so he adapted. He learned to predict Izuku's movements. He learned to use his words as weapons, trying to bait Izuku into responding mid-fight to activate the brainwashing. Your left hook is sloppy, Shinso yelled, dodging a lightning-infused jab. Is that how All Might taught you? Or are you just flailing? It's not flailing, Izuku retorted, and froze. His eyes went blank. The brainwashing took hold. Shinso walked up to the frozen Izuku and tapped his forehead. Dead? You answered. Izuku's mind snapped back. He shook his head, frustrated. Damn it! I keep falling for it. You're too earnest, Shinso smirked. You want to defend your honor. Heroes need thick skin, Midoriya. Again, Izuku said, sparking up. No, Shinso said, checking his phone. It's late. And, tomorrow is the day. Izuku powered down. The lightning faded. Tomorrow. The calendar date he had circled in red. The USJ trip. According to the schedule Izuku had overheard thanks to his enhanced hearing slightly boosting his senses. Class 1A was going to the unforeseen simulation joint for rescue training. But Izuku couldn't shake the image of the decaying gate. The dust. The handprint. The media breach was a distraction, his mind whispered. They were looking for something. Or waiting for something. You're doing the face again, Shinso said. I have a bad feeling, Izuku admitted. About tomorrow. It's just a field trip, Midoriya. They have All Might. They have Aizawa. They'll be fine. Yeah, Izuku looked at the dark ocean. They have Aizawa. Aizawa, who expelled me to save my life. Aizawa, who thinks he can protect them all. Go home, Izuku, Shinso said, using his first name for the first time. Get some sleep. You look like a raccoon. See you tomorrow, Hitoshi, Izuku replied. The next morning, the bus for Class 1A was parked at the front of the school. Izuku watched from the second-floor window of the Gen Ed wing. He saw them boarding. Ashido was cheering. Kaminari was giving a thumbs up. Izuku's eyes scanned the faculty. Aizawa was ushering them on. President Mike was waving them off. But where was All Might? Izuku frowned. All Might is supposed to be teaching that class. He pulled out his phone. He checked the news. All Might resolves 3 incidents in 1 hour. Commuting heroics. He used up his time, Izuku realized with a jolt. He's out of time. He won't be there. Panic flared in his chest. The gate. The decay. The breach. If villains attack today, All Might won't be there. Midoriya, sit down, the math teacher called out. Class is starting. Izuku looked at the bus driving away. He looked at the teacher. He sat down, but his leg bounced nervously under the desk. It's irrational, he told himself. I'm being paranoid. UA is safe. He opened his textbook. He tried to focus on quadratic equations, but the silence of the room felt heavy. It felt like the calm before a storm. And miles away, at a facility with a dome roof, a black mist was beginning to swirl in the center of a plaza. Izuku gripped his pencil so hard it snapped. He didn't know it yet, but the view from the outside was about to become the only thing that could save the people on the inside. The clock on the wall of Class 1C ticked with a rhythm that felt suspiciously like a countdown. Tick. Tock. Tick. Tock. Izuku Midoriya stared at the second hand. It was 1:15 p.m. To his right, the window showed the expanse of Yui campus, bathed in the innocent, bright sunlight of early afternoon. It was peaceful. Birds were chirping. The leaves on the trees were rustling in a gentle breeze. It was perfect. And it made Izuku want to scream. Midoriya, the math teacher, ectoplasm, said, his voice reverberating slightly from his clone mouth mechanism. You have been staring at that cloud for 10 minutes. Is there a quadratic equation hidden in the cumulus formation? A ripple of low laughter went through the class. Izuku jumped, his knee hitting the underside of his desk with a loud thud. Sorry, sensei. Izuku stammered, bowing his head. I was just thinking about vectors. Vectors are on page 42. Not in the sky. Izuku opened his book to page 42. The numbers swam before his eyes. He couldn't focus. The feeling in his gut, the one that had started yesterday when he found the decaying dust on the gate, had grown from a whisper to a scream. It was a physical nausea, a cold stone sitting in the pit of his stomach. Hitoshi Shinso, sitting next to him, didn't look up from his notes, but he slid a small piece of paper onto Izuku's desk. Stop vibrating. You're shaking the floor. Izuku grabbed his pen to write back, but his hand was trembling. He clenched it into a fist. Class 1A is at the USJ, he thought. Rescue training? All Might is supposed to be there. But All Might used up his time this morning stopping those 3 incidents. I saw the news. He was steaming. He's probably resting in the teacher's lounge right now. So who is guarding them? Aizawa-sensei. And 13. 2 pros. Strong pros. But the gate. The dust. The breach. It's irrational, Izuku whispered to himself, repeating Aizawa's favorite word like a mantra. UA is the safest place in Japan. The sensors are active. The barrier is up. But logic was losing the war against instinct. And deep inside the stockpiled power of One for All, something ancient was stirring. A warning. Location. The unforeseen simulation joint USJ. The massive doors of the dome loomed over the students of Class 1A. It's huge! Achiko Uraraka gasped, her eyes sparkling. Everyone, listen up! The space hero, 13, stood before them in her puffy white suit. Welcome to the USJ. Shipwrecks, landslides, fires, windstorms. I prepared this facility so you can learn how to deal with accidents and disasters. The class cheered. They were excited. They were naive. Shota Aizawa stood off to the side, his hands in his pockets. He looked annoyed. 13, he grunted. Where is he? 13 held up 3 fingers. He reached his limit during the morning commute. He's resting in the lounge. He said he'd pop in for the end. Aizawa scoffed. Irrational as always. Well, we can't help it. Let's get started. The class began to shuffle forward. Kirishima was laughing with Zero. Bakugo was looking around with a bored scowl, hands jammed in his pockets. Then, the lights flickered. A low hum vibrated through the floor. In the center of the central plaza, down the long flight of stairs, the air began to distort. A small black dot appeared. It swirled, expanded, and tore open like a wound in reality. Purple mist poured out, and from the mist a hand reached out. Pale, covered in severed hands, Aizawa froze. The hairs on the back of his neck stood up. Gather together and don't move. He shouted, his voice snapping with a combat urgency that silenced the students instantly. 13. Protect the students. What's that? Kirishima asked, squinting. Is this like the entrance exam? Has the training started already? Aizawa whipped his goggles over his eyes. Don't move. Those are villains. The word hung in the air, heavy and impossible. Villains? Here, in the School of Heroes? Down below, the portal widened. Dozens of thugs poured out, grotesque mutants, giants, men with weapons, and in the center, a man with messy blue hair and hands clutching his face scratched at his neck. Eraserhead and 13, the man rasped, his voice dry and hateful. According to the schedule we received the other day, All Might is supposed to be here. Shigaraki Tamura looked up at the terrified students. Where is he? I went through all this trouble to bring this crowd, and the symbol of peace isn't here? I knew it, Aizawa muttered, his scarf floating up. The press breach yesterday. It was you. I wonder if he'll come if we kill some kids? Shigaraki mused. The panic in Class 1A was immediate. Villains? No way. Sensor jamming? We have to run. Aizawa didn't hesitate. He didn't have time to strategize. In another timeline, a green-haired boy might have mumbled about the villains' types, noticing that they were mostly low-level thugs meant to be swept aside. But without that analysis, Aizawa only saw numbers. Too many enemies. I have to draw their fire. 13. Get them out. Try to contact the school. Aizawa leaped. He dove down the stairs, a lone black streak against the tidal wave of malice. The shipwreck zone. The chaos had happened in seconds. The mist villain, Kurojairi, had intercepted the students at the exit. Nice to meet you. We are the League of Villains. Bakugo and Kirishima had attacked. It was impulsive. It was brave. It was futile. Kurojairi expanded his mist, swallowing the class. Splash. Tsuyu Ajiri hit the water hard. Cold, dark water. She oriented herself instantly. She was a frog, after all. This was her element. She swam to the surface. Help! I'm drowning! The balls don't float. Minoru Mineta was thrashing beside her, screaming. Mineta-chan, quiet, Tsuyu whispered, grabbing him by his cape and dragging him toward a boat that was floating nearby. They scrambled onto the deck of the shipwreck. The boat was rusted and creaking. Where are we? Mineta shrieked, clinging to Tsuyu's leg. Where are the others? Shipwreck zone, Tsuyu said, scanning the water. We were warped. Then she saw them. Sharks. Not real sharks. Villains with aquatic quirks. They were circling the boat, dozens of them. They looked hungry. We're surrounded, a villain yelled from the water. Come on out, little heroes. We promised to make it quick, Tsuyu's heart hammered. In the timeline that should have been, Izuka Midoriya would be here. He would be muttering. He would analyze the situation. They don't know our quirks. They are keeping their distance. They are cautious. He would come up with a plan. Use Mineta's grapes to stick them together. Use the Delaware Smash to create a whirlpool. But Izuka Midoriya was sitting in a math class 3 miles away. What do we do? Mineta was hyperventilating. He started throwing his sticky balls into the water aimlessly. Take that. And that. Stop it. Tsuyu grabbed his hand. Don't waste them. We're gonna die. I haven't even touched a boob yet. Mineta-chan, listen to me, Tsuyu said, though her voice trembled. We have to call for help. My phone is wet. It's not waterproof. Tsuyu looked at the villains. They were getting bolder. One of them, a man with a squid head, started climbing the anchor chain. They're just kids, the squid villain sneered. Easy pickings. Tsuyu acted on instinct. She shot her tongue out, slapping the villain in the face. He fell back with a splash. Get back! She croaked. Get them! The villains roared. They surged toward the boat. There was no brilliant strategy. There was no whirlpool. There was only survival. Mineta, throw your balls at the hull. Tsuyu ordered. Make a barrier. Okay. Mineta ripped the balls from his head, bleeding, and stuck them along the railing. The villains tried to climb up. Their hands got stuck. They screamed, but there were too many. A villain with a water jet quirk blasted the side of the boat. The rusted metal groaned and buckled. The ship began to list. It's sinking. Mineta wailed. Tsuyu grabbed Mineta. We have to swim. I can't swim fast enough. I'll carry you. Hold your breath. Tsuyu dove. She grabbed Mineta and plunged into the dark water, but the villains were faster in the water. A hand grabbed her ankle. Sharp claws dug into her skin. Tsuyu cried out, a muffled bubble of sound. She kicked, but the grip was iron. I'm sorry, she thought, terror seizing her. I can't get away. The central plaza. Aizawa was a whirlwind. He fought like a demon. His capture weapon snapped and coiled, throwing villains into each other. He punched, kicked, and erased quirks with a rhythm that was almost hypnotic. But he was tired. Every time he erased a quirk, his eyes dried out a little more. Every time he dodged, he used a fraction of energy he didn't have. 23 seconds, Shigaraki counted, watching from the fountain. 24 seconds. Then a blink. Aizawa took down 3 guys with a sweeping leg kick. He panted, his chest heaving. He looked up. Shigaraki was running at him. Aizawa's eyes widened. Erase. Shigaraki's quirk vanished. Aizawa threw a punch to the gut. Shigaraki caught it. You're cool, Eraserhead, Shigaraki whispered, grinning behind the hand mask. But you rely too much on your eyes. Shigaraki's other hand reached out. Aizawa blinked. Contact. Gah! Aizawa's elbow disintegrated. The skin, the muscle, the bone, it turned to dust in an instant. He reeled back, clutching the crumbling ruin of his arm. Don't push yourself, Shigaraki laughed. I'm not the final boss. A shadow fell over Aizawa. It wasn't a cloud. It was a mountain of black muscle. A beak filled with razor teeth. An exposed brain. The Nomu. Nomu, Shigaraki ordered. Break him. Aizawa tried to look up. He tried to activate his quirk, but the Nomu was too fast. A massive hand, the size of an engine block, slammed Aizawa into the concrete. Crack. The sound of breaking ribs echoed through the plaza. Teacher! From the entrance, Ida Tenya screamed. He had been trying to find an opening to run, but seeing his teacher crushed stopped him in his tracks. Go! Aizawa gargled, blood spilling from his mouth. He tried to lift his head, but the Nomu stomped on his other arm. Snap! Ida! Run! Ida turned. Tears streamed down his face behind his helmet. I have to get help. I can't fight this. I have to run. He activated his engines. Recipro burst. Kurogyri appeared in front of him. I cannot allow you to leave, but this time, there was no Uraraka to float the mist away. There was no Sero to grab him. Ida was alone. He gritted his teeth. I represent Class 1A. I am the brother of Ingenium. He didn't try to dodge. He just accelerated. He ran straight through the mist. Kurogyri tried to warp him back to the plaza, but Ida's speed was too erratic. He clipped the edge of the portal, his armor scraping sparks, and burst through the heavy metal doors of the USJ. He tumbled onto the dirt outside. The fresh air hit him, but he didn't stop. He ran. He ran toward the main campus, his engine screaming. UA High School hallway. The bell for the end of the period rang. Izuku packed his bag slowly. The feeling of dread hadn't lifted, it had gotten worse. Suddenly, the speakers crackled. Not the automated voice this time. A human voice. Panicked. Breathless. Security alert. Level 4. All teachers to the faculty office immediately. This is not a drill. USJ sensors are offline. Ida Tenya has reported villains. The classroom went dead silent. Villains? Someone whispered. Again? Did he say USJ? Izuku didn't freeze. He moved. He grabbed his bag and bolted for the door. Midoriya! Where are you going? Shinso shouted, standing up. We're supposed to evacuate. I have to go. Izuku yelled back, not stopping. He sprinted down the hallway. USJ. Villains. Sensors offline. Class 1A is alone. Aizawa-sensei. He turned the corner, his shoes squeaking on the linoleum. He needed to find All Might. No, All Might was out of time. He needed to find the other teachers. He saw them ahead. Principal Nizu, Vlad King, Midnight, and Snipe were running down the main corridor toward the exit. Stop! Izuku shouted. Snipe turned around. You again? Kid, get to the shelter. We have a situation. I know. Izuku skidded to a halt in front of them, panting. You're going to the USJ, right? Move aside, student, Vlad King growled. We don't have time. The bridge is out. Izuku blurted out. Nizu stopped. The small mammal looked at Izuku with sharp, intelligent eyes. Explain. The construction on the North Bridge, Izuku said, his brain firing at 1,000,000 miles an hour. I saw it on the maintenance logs yesterday when I was looking around. They have the road blocked for repaving. If you take the main bus route, you'll hit a barricade. You'll lose 5 minutes turning the convoy around. Nizu's ears twitched. 5 minutes is a lifetime in a villain attack. Take the service tunnel under the stadium. Izuku pointed to the east. It connects directly to the USJ supply road. It's narrow, but the faculty cars can fit. It cuts the travel time by half. Vlad King looked at Nizu. Sir? Can we trust a Gen Ed student? Nizu looked at Izuku. He saw the desperate intelligence in the boy's eyes. He saw the broken spirit trying to be useful. He is the student who identified the decay quirk yesterday when you dismissed it, Snipe, Nizu said calmly. I read the report. Snipe flinched. We take the tunnel, Nizu commanded. Midoriya, excellent work. Now get to safety. The teachers turned and ran toward the east exit. Izuku stood there, chest heaving. He had saved them time. Maybe 10 minutes. Is it enough? Is it enough to save Aizawa? He looked at the direction of the USJ. He wanted to run there. He wanted to charge in with 5% full cowling and smash the villains. But he was miles away. And he was expelled. If he went there, he would just be a vigilante. A criminal. He slumped against the wall. Please, he whispered to the empty hallway. Please be okay. The USJ, the climax. The doors burst open. I am here. All Might didn't smile. He didn't pose. He tore the door off its hinges. His suit was loose on his frame, but he puffed himself up, forcing muscle onto bone through sheer willpower. Smoke trailed from his body. He saw the scene. He saw the students huddled near the entrance, terrified. He saw the shipwreck zone, where Shoji was dragging a limping Tsuyu and a sobbing Mineta out of the water. Tsuyu's leg was bleeding badly. He saw the central plaza. Aizawa was a broken doll. He was lying in a pool of his own blood. His arms were twisted at impossible angles. His face was mashed into the concrete. The Nomu was standing over him, ready to deliver the killing blow. No! All Might roared. He moved faster than sound. In a blink, he was in the plaza. He snatched Aizawa's body from under the Noma's foot. In the same motion, he grabbed Shigaraki's face, pushing him back. He leaped back to the students. Take Aizawa-sensei! All Might shouted, gently placing the unconscious teacher in Kirishima's arms. Get back to the entrance! Kirishima looked at Aizawa's mangled face and turned pale. Oh God! Sensei, he's alive, All Might said, though his voice was tight. Barely. All Might turned to the Noma. You hurt my students. You hurt my colleague. The steam rising from All Might's body grew thicker. His time limit was screaming at him. He had maybe a minute. Nomu, Shigaraki ordered, standing up and adjusting his hand mask. Kill him. He's weaker than we thought. The fight that followed was desperate. In the original timeline, Izuku had jumped in. He had distracted the Noma for a crucial second. He had given All Might the opening to go plus ultra. Here, All Might was alone. He traded blows with the Noma. Shockwaves shattered the windows of the dome. The water in the zones rippled violently. He was made to kill me, All Might realized as his punch was absorbed. Shock absorption. And regeneration. All Might was losing. He was being pushed back. The Noma clawed at his weak spot, the injury on his side. Gah! All Might coughed blood. He's bleeding. Bakugo yelled from the entrance. The bastard is hurt. We have to help him. Todoroki shouted, stepping forward, eyes spreading from his foot. Stay back. All Might bellowed, not looking back. This is too dangerous. He couldn't let them see him deflate. He couldn't let them die. He had to finish this. Now, go beyond. Even if it breaks me. All Might grabbed the Noma by the waist. He didn't punch. He suplexed the beast. He drove it headfirst into the concrete floor. Then, he grabbed its arm and spun. Carolina. Smash! He used the centrifugal force to throw the Noma. Not into the ground. But up, through the glass ceiling, through the steel frame, into the stratosphere. The Nomu twinkled like a star and vanished. All Might stood in the center of the crater. Steam poured off him in clouds. He was trembling. He was at 0%. He turned to Shigaraki. Now, All Might bluffed, his voice deep but hollow. You're next. Shigaraki took a step back. He scratched his neck furiously. Cheater, he cheated. Tamura Shigaraki, Kurojairi whispered. We must retreat. The reinforcements are here. At the entrance, the doors opened again. Snipes stood there with a revolver. Bang! 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 Bullets struck Shigaraki in the arms and legs. Ow! Teachers! The pros are here! Shigaraki shrieked. Game over, he hissed at All Might. But next time, symbol of peace, you die. Kurojairi wrapped around him. They vanished into the mist. The silence that followed was deafening. All Might stood tall for one more second. Then, as the steam cleared, he fell to his knees. He began to shrink. All Might! Kirishima ran forward. Wait! Cementos appeared, creating a wall of cement between the students and All Might. Stay back! Secure the injured! Hidden behind the wall, Toshinori Yagi coughed up a pint of blood and passed out. The next day Yue Infirmary, the lights were dim. The smell of antiseptic was overwhelming. Izuku stood outside the door. He held a small bouquet of flowers. The door opened. Recovery girl walked out. She looked exhausted. Midoriya, she sighed. I told you to go to class. How is he? Izuku asked, his voice small. All Might is resting. He overexerted himself, but he'll live. She paused, looking at the door to the ICU. Eraserhead is stable. But the damage is severe. Both arms were pulverized. Comminuted fractures. Nerve damage. And his orbital floor, his skull was fractured. Izuku gripped the flowers. Will he be able to be a hero again? Recovery girl shook her head slowly. I don't know. I healed the bones, but the nerves, he might not regain full dexterity in his hands. And his eyes, using his quirk might be painful from now on. Izuku felt a tear slide down his cheek. If I had been there. He whispered. If you had been there, Recovery girl said sharply, tapping him with her cane, you would likely be in the bed next to him. Or in the morgue. But I could have done something, Izuku argued, his voice cracking. I could have seen the Noma's absorption. I could have warned him. I could have saved Ajuri-san from getting bit. Tsuyu had needed 20 stitches in her leg. You did do something, a voice said from down the hall. Nizu walked toward them. The police analyzed the timeline, the principal said. If you hadn't redirected us through the service tunnel, we would have arrived 8 minutes later. In those 8 minutes, Shigaraki would have likely killed All Might. Or the students. Nizu stopped in front of Izuku. You weren't there, Midoriya. But you saved them. Izuku looked at Nizu. He didn't feel like a hero. He felt like a coward who played navigator while his teacher was beaten to a pulp. It's not enough, Izuku said. He looked at his hand, the hand that Aizawa had expelled him for breaking. I need to be stronger. I need to be there. Nizu looked at the boy. He saw the guilt. He saw the resolve. Then get back to class, Nizu said gently. The sports festival is coming up. Prove to us that you belong on the field, not in the hallway. Izuku nodded. He placed the flowers by the door. He walked away. As he walked, he passed Class 1's homeroom. The door was open. The class was inside. They were silent. There was no laughter. No shouting. Bakugo was staring at his desk, his face pale. Uraraka was crying softly. Todoroki was looking out the window, his expression grim. They looked traumatized. They looked broken. They had seen the abyss, and they hadn't been ready. Izuku stopped. He looked at them. They need a symbol, he thought. They need someone to tell them it's going to be okay. All Might is fading. Aizawa is down. Izuku clenched his fist. I will be there next time. I promise. He walked back to the general education wing, back to the shadows. But the shadows felt different now. They didn't feel like a hiding place. They felt like a launching pad.